What's going on, Cancer? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to the Chariot Friends. Justin here, and you ready for that full moon energy that's happening in Gemini? You know what? This one I was kind of reflecting on this, and I think that this is going to be one where the moon where we take lemons and make lemonade. You know, where we work with that mutable energy of Gemini with the moon and Sagittarius with the sun and find solutions to make the most out of a situation, to take what may seem like a limiting situation and really kind of flip it on its head, to approach it from every perspective and just really kind of find a silver lining in what may seem like a otherwise tricky situation. So we'll talk about that definitely more here in a moment. But before we get into this thing, again, if you're new here, my name is Justin, and just know that when you're coming across this video, you're in sync with the moon, and she loves that. But this is also a place for you if you happen to have Cancer in your placement, sun, moon, rising, wherever. Mercury, this one's for you. And I do tarot card spreads based off this lovely luminary, the good old moon. I actually saw her for the last couple of days. I've been seeing her. I'm like, what's good, Luna? It's been fantastic. I love that. And we'll also talk about what sign she's in, what phase she's in, which she's going to avoid, of course. Just all them lunar shenanigans. And that's something where, just a little sidebar, whenever you get a chance and you do have just a view of the moon, just take a minute. Just give her a good look. Give her a good look. And just like, there's just something so wondrous, so healing, just so it's something really nice for the eyes. I even find just thinking when I just look at the moon. It's different, when you can really look at the sun for so long, but the moon you can stare at all day, all night. You get where I'm going with this. And then lastly, just so you're aware, this. Oh, this is what happens when I go off strict or go off script. Just so you're aware, this is a general reading, not a one-to-one. So take what fits into your story, discard the rest, and everything will be dope. So let's just jump into this thing because it's okay. This is usually the time where I'm on a lunar return. So if you also have a Gemini moon, happy lunar return. I'm actually got to get back with a couple Gemini moons that I'm gonna need to talk with. We're all in a lunar return, but also depending on when you're watching this, and I'm going to be shuffling your cards here for your daily energy. Happy Venus Day. Are we going to be talking about Venus today? I might talk about Venus a little bit outside of this. But Venus is associated with Fridays. And I love working with Venus in the sense of, I was actually talking about this in my other video on Alchemist 8, the power of Venus and how doing those little things to... Oh, we're going to get a little bit more. Okay. Interesting. Thanks, Spirit. Oh, how appropriate for the twins. But working with the power, the subtle attractiveness of Venus. You know, when you're wanting to make a strong impression, let's say you're going for an interview, you get dressed up, you get in a part, you get into, it's like, okay, let's do this thing. I'm just turning something on here. I'm turning on the magnetism. And so I find doing Venusian things during Venus Day can not just help you attract the things that you want, but they just make this life more enjoyable. That's one of the aspects, even though Venus is considered like the lesser benefic, and you may think like, oh, what does Venus bring other than beauty, harmony? Those things are great. Venus brings the music that we enjoy, the pleasant conversations that we can have with people, the art that the nature that we enjoy. Just so much that I feel Venus can bring in and making us feel good and even passing that energy along. I was mentioning on the video too, Venus is going through my 7th house right now. And one way that I'm working with Venus is sending, and considering it's, she's traveling through an air sign, Aquarius. I'm using those Venusian energy just to complement the Venusian efforts that I notice other people doing. So if they have like a really cool hat or maybe some earrings or whatever, jackets, it's just like making that a point, or just introducing more pleasant conversations and letting that be the focus of that Aquarius fixed energy, so I can just attract more pleasant things during this period of time. Jack could definitely use a little bit of pleasantness. So that's how I've been working. So those are some ways. And also one thing I like to do during these days is think about to think about my Venus placement. Where is she? And that's what I invite for you to try to do as well. What is your relationship with Venus? What does Venus, when you think about Venus, what things come up for you? How do you work with Venus? Or how would you work with Venus if there was something, if there was a Venus transit that was going on right now? What house is Venus transiting for you right now? And how could you better work with her to attract? Do you have a night chart? Because Venus is going to be your number one benefic. You know, in the day chart is Jupiter, but at night it's Venus. Venus thrives in the night chart. So you really want to have a great relationship with Venus if you happen to have that as well. So just some things to kind of play around with as well. But let's get into the lunar shenanigans. Because on the 13th of December, depending on when you're watching this, the moon is going to enter into Gemini, and this is going to happen at about 9:22 a.m. Now, before I talk about the full moon, just talking about Gemini energy. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. That's one of the signs that Mercury rules. And they are the mutable air sign. So they're being an air sign, they're masculine in nature, so there's an active energy that comes around with Gemini. The air is about the intellect, how we communicate, and just how things are conveyed. The thing about the wind carrying all types of things. Warm weather, cold weather, blessings, disease, just all the things that the winds carry. But then you think about the modality of Gemini, the mutability, that ability to be able to change and to adapt quickly. And so when you combine all of these things, Gemini is one that can, they're known as the communicators of the zodiac, of course. It's because I think Gemini has the ability to absorb things very quickly. And I'm just talking about the energy just in general. And that's a real beautiful thing about Gemini. They can learn and teach as quick as they can learn. And I find with Gemini energy, this is a great time to dip into listening to maybe different podcasts or engaging in different conversations, reading different books, learning different things. Not just for just the sake of learning, especially with Jupiter being there right now. We're going to talk about that a little bit more too. But with Jupiter being there can be this overabundance of information because this is where Jupiter's in his detriment. But it's still Jupiter in the fact that there is so much for us available for us and that we can avail ourselves of. And so one thing I think to work with the moon in Gemini is if you have a particular thing that you're wanting to work through, there are answers out there for you. There's so much, and not even just things that you have to pay for. There's so much quality free things out there that you can get for whatever thing that you're trying to solve. And then when you find, maybe narrow it down to a couple, you can start investing in some things and go a little bit even further down that rabbit hole. But I find when Gemini does have a focus, there'll be experts in no time. It really is incredible what Gemini can pick up. So, and this is something I find too, just if you have some feelings, this is a more intellectual energy, of course, being an air sign. So if there are some feelings that are coming up, maybe some anxieties or things that you've been noticing and stuff, this could be a great time for, again, writing that stuff out, maybe even recording yourself, paying attention, because Gemini is really sharp. Paying attention to the different mannerisms, the word choice. As you're talking, pay attention to the words that you're using, your inflections, how they're landing, you're talking their hands a lot. Just pay attention to the things that you notice, like, oh, maybe, as I'm recording, just all those little things that Gemini can take in and just and see what constructive, what little nuggets that you can get out of that to work with that and improve your journey. So just some things to think about the moon in Gemini. Now let's talk about the full moon, because that's going to be happening on Sunday, the 15th of December. And that's going to happen it's going to happen pretty early. It's going to happen at 1:01 a.m. And I actually have a chart over here for you. We're going to switch over. And so the full moon, and if I didn't mention that specific time, 1:01 a.m. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and start circle Jupiter too. This is an awkward circle oval. But you got the lovely moon here. And then we have the mighty sun. And the full moon is when the sun and the moon are in opposition with each other, as they are once every month. And the opposition or the full moon is a time of where the moon is at her fullest. We're seeing things clearly, a time of like revelations and really kind of seeing if there's something that you've been wanting to work towards. This is where either the idea is coming to fruition as far as like how to go about the approach, or now where maybe you had planned on doing some sort of like presentation, or you planned on unveiling something, you've been doing something behind the scenes, and now this can be a time for unveiling that, revealing this kind of grand thing during this full moon time, depending on how, if that's something that resonates with you. But I find that the full moon time is thinking about back to whatever intentions that you set at the beginning of this lunar cycle, and how are they coming along? What is it? What's the reality versus the expectation that you had when this thing was still just a seed? And are we further along or behind than we would like? Ultimately, you're right. You're always right on time. But just where's your relationship with that? I find oppositions, just like how the sun and the moon are, they are a great way of just seeing stuff outside of you, and seeing where you're at as far as like what, again, that expectation versus reality, and what adjustments do I need to make? Either are we celebrating, or are we going back, kind of back to the drawing board here, and then taking that whatever information we got, positive, negative, all constructive, into the waning half of this. And it's like, okay, what were some things that got in the way that I needed to let go? What are some things that I can improve? So there's a lot I feel like we can really work with on this full moon. And because I say that too, because if we break out of just, and actually I'm going to delete that for a moment, if we just break out of just the specific degree aspect, if we go into just more of like a whole sign aspect, we have both Mercury and the sun in Sagittarius, and then we have the moon and Jupiter in Gemini. And when I think about this, both Jupiter and Mercury are in some tricky situations normally, but they're in a place where they're in each other's signs that they rule. Mercury rules rules Gemini, and Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So I say that there's this, when I was talking earlier about this turning lemons into lemonade, they may be in unfavorable positions, but if with a little cooperation, they can find alternative ways to make the most of what they're working with. So let's say if you're at a job and things aren't going anywhere, for example, maybe you've hit a plateau, you can't get any sort of like raise or anything like that. Well, you can apply for other jobs, and in the meantime, you don't have to put as much into the current one. Do enough so that you're still doing your work, of course, but now there's not that pressure. It's like, okay, well, I've been going ham with no expectation, with zero return. And I kind of like that too, because even by whole sign here, we have, and not too far away, we had Venus and Mars. Here, let me circle those two real quick. Venus and Mars, who are also in opposition by whole sign. There's a lot of opposing energies here. And so, but I don't think it's meant to be something where you're just feeling stopped on all sides. This can just be where it's just like, oh, I'm going to need to make a number of changes, but these changes are ones that I can do in one foul swoop. Kind of tackle one thing, could snowball into another thing, and end up fixing another thing, is what I'm kind of feeling, and kind of seeing how this energies could potentially work out here. And I talk about this making the most to another reason that I say this. I'm going to switch back over. Another reasons that I talk about making the most of a situation is because the Sabian symbol of where the moon is falling on this full moon. It's happening at phase 84 of Gemini. And this talks about children skating over a frozen village pond. And the keynote for this is the use of inhibiting circumstances for the development of character and a transcendent approach to the environment. So when you're thinking about even just the setting, a frozen village pond, we're implying that it's cold, it's winter time, wherever this is taking place. And so there's already this restrictive Saturnian sort of quality, just like the oppositions that are applying, that are trying to keep you limited or trying to keep you in. There's not as much food available. There's not many things growing. There's not as much light that's available. However, there are these children. There's a certain period of time, though, where there is some light outside. And now that the water has frozen over, instead of swimming, now we can go out and roller skate instead. Or roller skate. I mean, if you want to roller skate on the ice, I don't know how graceful that's going to be. But for the rest of us, we may be doing a little ice skating. And I think that that's talking about the ingenuity even that of this experience that happens, who thought, like, you know what, I'm just like, really, they were just, someone just got kind of bored one day, they're just, I'm tired of sitting in the house, I need to get outside, let me put some blades on the bottom of these shoes and just go just go on the ice and start twirling and doing all of the things. But it's that transcendent approach. Gemini and Sagittarius. One thing I like about the opposition, especially between those two signs, is that there's this ability to, like, okay, well, I hit this challenge, whatever, I'll just do something else. I'll find another way to get around it. Those two, I feel like they're just not good. They're able to think and instinctively just get themselves out of a situation with that Jupiter and that Mercury energy. And so I think with whatever situation is going on, wherever this is happening for you by house, look at the houses that this full moon is falling in. And wherever this is happening for you, see if there's any sort of ways, because I'm sure that where there's a will, there's a way, as far as like trying to reconcile or to improve whatever it is that's needing to be remedied here. So with all this active energy too, because when I was just even kind of thinking about that, that's a lot of air and a lot of fire energy that's in this full moon period here. So definitely be kind of meditating and thinking about and just kind of analyzing where you're at on these intentions and just like, yeah, how you can move forward with this. And if you're curious about wanting to work with these energies more intentionally, down in the description box below, I have links for all the services that I provide. So whether it be a solar return or whatever that may be, yeah, definitely sign up for that if it resonates with you. So, and I think that's all I got for you there. So let's go ahead and switch over to the tarot. And then last little bit here, these readings that I do, they're not gender specific readings, so apply these energies to people as they make sense for your situations. And then before we jump into this thing, I'm going to ring this bell to bring some good vibes into here, kind of settle the mind before we jump in with this Gemini. So adjust your volume if you need to, but let's go ahead and do this thing. All right. All right, let's see what your general energy of the day is. Oh, interesting. All right. So for your first card here, oh, yeah, she's looking like she's feeling a lot. So you have tidal wave of emotions here. And this card talks about embrace the ebb and flow of feelings. Every surge brings clarity and growth. And that's very interesting. And then this one here, and I kind of like this that is going from here to there, because then you have the olive branch of optimism here, very Sagittarius. And this is hope is a powerful ally. Extend the olive branch to yourself and others during challenging times. So this tidal wave, when we are going through just the ebbs and flows of life, you know, because she's looking like she's in it. She's in it. Like, don't even come over here. And when we're in those places, when the stuff starts to ebb, I find that it's in those lows that we can reflect on the tools that we brought from the highs. and how they can help us get through the lows. And then when we get out of and get into that flow, we can reflect on the ebbs and where we came from. And it just makes that flow and that celebration so much sweeter. So it's not, so I think that in just talking about it like that, it helps form a different relationship with these things, because this journey, like the moon, always it's waxing and waning. And there's going to be places where it's the waning and waxing going to be more comfortable and maybe even more extreme than in others. Maybe while this is happening, when the Gemini cycle, it's usually pretty chill for you. But then maybe the following, when we get into the Cancer cycle and it's a wave of emotions, it may not be so chill. So I think that with this every surge bringing clarity. This is why I think following the moon and working with the planets and things can be very beneficial, because they can help bring about excuse me, this sense of optimism, in the sense that I got through this thing before last time. When the sun was in, I think about this when we get into like Scorpio season, for example. It's not just hard for me just because it's Scorpio. It's more so that's a harder season for me because I have a lot of fixed planets in my chart. So there's a lot of activity that's going on, and it brings about a lot of strong emotions. And it's a lot. I got to look for that in Scorpio and in Taurus, because that's the opposite sign. So there's more, but it's different how it definitely manifests in Taurus and how it does in Scorpio. But these are things that I'm aware of. They're great, and then I can turn those times into allies. I'll tell you what, I did this Scorpio season way better than I did last year. That overall, I would say I would rate it a lot better. So in that extending this olive branch to yourself, this gives me very kind of like Wheel of Fortune and even like star card energies coming through here. But that waving that olive branch to yourself during those and others during those challenging times, is just like, hey, you're allowed to feel like this. It's fine, but it is just understanding that you're not always going to feel like this. You're going to go back to being beautiful, being radiant in your jungle here, out of the tumultuous waters that can be the feelings or whatever it is that may be coming up for you. And then the growth will just continue from there. But let's get some tarot on this and get some details. Because even thinking about this, Gemini is the lovers. We have a choice in this. We can choose to ride in those emotions as long as we want, or we can choose to look on the brighter side of things. And neither is better than the other. You just honor yourself where you're at that day. Absolutely. Oh, we're going to get one more. Oh, that's all. Okay. So for this is for the past energies here. And I like this. You know, in the past, we have the Six of Wands here. Look at you celebrating. And then we have the Page of Wands here. A lot of fire. And I like this. And maybe and since it's the past energy, you know, that Six of Wands is feeling victorious, is feeling on top of the world. This is Jupiter in Leo. And I really think that this is that calling on that past energy when you were on top. And it's not to say that, I would say be mindful about wanting things to be just like it was, because it'll never be the same. It's always going to be different, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be better as well here. And I think that this Page of Wands is reminding you of that will, that when you set your intentions toward it, that victory will manifest. Because the pages, they are, just thinking in elementally, they can be known as the earthy part of, or at least the Page of Wands is the earthy part of fire. So this is that will materialized with that page, that victory materialize. And I really do feel like it's that if I did it once, I can do it again, and I will continue doing it again and again and again and again, because I'm going to keep passing that olive branch off. It's become this kind of relay race, is what this page is giving me here. But let's get a clarifier for this energies here. Thanks, Spirit. All right, so these cards are clarified by the Five of Swords in reverse here. And it's like, it's this energy in the past is like, once now we're not feeling on top. It's like we were once there, but now I'm getting almost the energy of when we're talking about in this olive branch of optimism, talking about extending that olive branch to others. There are times when you want compassion, when you're going through something, when you want people to understand. And I think that this Five of Swords here is asking to also just to remember that just as you go through challenging times, we all go through challenging times. It doesn't matter your status, whatever you're at in life. There are always going to. No one is immune to the ebbs and flows of life. They're just going to. They're just gonna be, and they're very, very, And it doesn't even have to be in just like really big ways too. This could just be in kind of just real sort of in the simplest of ways. Maybe there was one day where I'm just thinking about when I sometimes cook. Like, I don't have necessarily like a recipe that I follow. I have just like I have certain seasonings that I enjoy working with, and things taste about the same roughly. But there are times where I've cooked things, I'm like, man, that was on point. And then other things I'm like, yeah, this is good. And it's just like, there's just something here as it's just giving me that, like, this consistency, or something else is coming through as far as that as well. Like, yeah, I think ultimately or overall that's what I got for you here. Just remembering that where these things may happen, that there's going to be an uptick, and just to spread that compassion with yourself and with others too, at least maybe with this past energy. But let's see what's going on with the present. Because I'm even getting with this Five of Swords, it's like maybe you were the one that even were used to just being in control, being the rock, and then something happens here. And now it's, let's get some, but this is in the past. Let's see what's going on in the present situation. Spirit. Okay. Oh, more heat. So you got the Three of Wands in reverse here. And I think with this Three of Wands, it's present is just like not sure maybe where to go right now. It's interesting, this tidal wave, this person's on this boat, they're kind of at sea here, and it's just like where am I going? What is the next call to action? And I was even getting this kind of energy with this feeling with the Six of Wands here of calling on maybe a community, as far as allowing yourself maybe to lean on others the way that others lean on you. Maybe you don't think that they can, but to give them there are those who I think even would want to be there for you. And that might be even what's kind of going on with this Five of Swords here. Maybe you were the type who would kind of shun away help, or just kind of take things on by yourself. But there's no shame or no harm in you just allowing just like a little assistance to come through here. With all these wands, I'm even getting like just thinking about the wands that can be about maybe ambitions in things. And I'm even just getting this where it's like you're starting, maybe you're in like this sort of in between period right now in this Three of Wands, and it's just like we're not sure if something is going to take off, or maybe something is just taking a lot longer. We're waiting for like a missing piece or something. I'm even getting like a delayed energy for something, maybe like a package or some sort of news is where we're expecting something sooner, maybe like a phone call or yeah, some sort of documents or something along those lines. That's another thing that's just kind of coming through there. But let's get a clarifier for this Three of Wands here. Oh, look at this. How fascinating. Hey, Spirit. So you have the Page of Wands in reverse here. So now that we got all of this, so now that the pages are out to play, you know, this again, there's just this energy here as far as just the will is not quite manifesting the way that it wants to, and maybe it's just bringing this, and I think that that's where this we got these two cards here because it's thinking about this duality that Gemini visibly brings more, almost more so than any of the other zodiac signs, maybe than like Pisces, where there's this, I almost think this kind of inner conversation, one that needs to be happened. This between the twins can be you and your higher, you know, that source self, or it's just I'm really getting that kind of Gemini sort of lover's energy of there's a choice that's needing to be made right now. Do we continue on this path, or maybe you just kind of need to be in the ebb for a little bit. Maybe there's been this escaping from the tidal wave of emotions, and maybe there's this optimism can be this thing of that, like, hey, you don't have to run from this thing. Like, you will figure out a way to handle this. It's not necessarily letting the floodgates just kind of come on with this emotions card here, but maybe just turn the tap on a little bit, allow something to flow in there so that, so yeah, so that you can just get over this hump. Yeah, because it's interesting. It's like in the past we knew what to do, but now it's like something new has appeared. And it's got a view just like a wild Pokemon appears, whatever. But it's just like, you know, something of a higher level just kind of came into the mix here, and now we're coming up to, yeah, just a new chapter. It seems. Hmm. All right, let's get some cards for the future. See what's going on. What are some future actions that maybe you can take? Okay. Thanks, Spirit. Oh, speaking of heat. All right. Big King for the win. And that's interesting because I was thinking about that. The Three of Wands, that's the Sun, and the associated majors with the Three of Wands are the Sun and the Emperor, because this is the Sun in Aries. But you have the Emperor in reverse here for your future energies. And so this is for me a call for action, a call for getting things in order with this card here. I'm even getting an energy of, that's interesting, maybe even someone who can help. There's some sort of, I keep because I'm just looking at all the cards that you kind of drawn here, at least from this deck here. Just I'm getting like maybe like a this page is like all the darker complexion. Just someone here of like maybe just like this mystery or this something with that. But this emperor here is one I'm getting to a need to like maybe take a step back from something and just kind of see maybe how the kingdom has, and I mean when I say the kingdom I mean like your kingdom, this body, the things in your domain, and what's going on there. There's this. I'm just even thinking about the minors of the Emperor of Aries, the 2, 3, and 4 of Wands, is going from establishing that dominion to going to the virtue, the 3 of Wands, to getting to that state of completion, the 4 of Wands, and yeah, just thinking about that flow, just like what are the next actions from here. Let's get a clarifier with the Emperor. Yeah, a lot of fire energy coming through here. There's Sag. They spirit all this heat. So you got the Temperance card in reverse. And the Temperance card is so in that future. This is that struggle with that balance. This figure here has 1 foot in the water, has 1 foot on the land, and there's a sense of, just thinking of just some literal balance that would need to require as they're dipping, submerging their toe in the water, how to they need that other foot to maintain themselves because the water doesn't give them that sturdy foundation as the earth does. And this how this figure is balancing the water between these cups here. There's something about it's like trying to pour. I'm just thinking like if you've been in like a moving vehicle and you're trying to maybe pour something in a cup, and you got all the bumps and things. It's just like okay, you do a little bit, and it's just gotta wait. And that's tough in life. There are those bumps in the road, and maybe it's been feeling like a lot of constant bumps, and just like how do you keep everything in order? But I feel like it's remembering that end goal there, that sun that's really kind of beaming over in the horizon here on this Temperance card, and the Temperance card even has the fire emblem on their chest there. But yeah, something is needing to just get readjusted. And I think that also too, and maybe the thing too, not just in the actions that you need to take, but just even the things that maybe you're telling yourself, just with thinking about Gemini, how we're communicating. Finding the balance in that, like saying like it's okay to be in this place right now. Like I won't stay here. I don't know when this is going to change, but I know that it will change. And it will evolve because it always does. It always does. And then you're on to the next thing. And then you're on to then that other thing's behind you because you got a current thing to get. And it just perpetuates. Let's get some advice from Mercury. Thanks, Barrett. I love this reading. So your advice from Mercury here is Mercury, the magician. And, Mercury, this magician card here, the power to get things in the flow. They got this lamnescate in their hand, the infinity symbol, and you have the power in the ebbs and flows of life to hand off this hope, to take the tools that you've worked with in the past to carry this thing forward. And it's with that Temperance in reverse, it's something that something that we're always working on, constantly striving towards that betterment. And it's in that striving that just makes us more powerful musicians, magicians, whatever Shinn you decide to do. It it gives us a sense of purpose to that hope is being a powerful ally. So work with that in this magician card because it's all within you. You know, you have that thing available to you always to call on here. Let's get a clarifier with this magician and wrap this reading up here. I'm even seeing here in this magician card they have all the arrows of the elements, you know, earth, wind, fire, water here. And it's just with all this fire energy, there's this gives me this emphasis on the will here. Okay. So we're getting a couple for that magician. Thanks, Spirit. And the magician is clarified by, you have the Page of Swords in reverse here. And then you have the Queen of Pentacles upright. And let's go ahead and switch back over. Because this Page of Swords, this is giving me that, you know, the idea isn't formed yet. How we're going to get through this thing is not quite sure. But I do believe with the Queen of Pentacles, you have more than enough tools to get through it. And this may not be just the tools that you're working with, but even the people that maybe you have available to you as well. We got 3 pages here. You got a queen. You got an emperor that showed up here. So you have all of these things available to you, and they all look different, you know, depending on your journey. But the Queen of Pentacles, I really have come to really enjoy something about the Queen of Pentacles here recently, that I love her background and just how lush everything is, how plenty it is. And even looking at her face, it's not like she's clinging on to these things that she has. There's a tenderness that's there with the Queen of Pentacles. She's savoring the fact that she does have these things to call on. Maybe she called these things, she has these coping mechanisms, these different friends maybe she has to call upon, maybe even different mentors to call upon. But yeah, that's just some things to think about with this energy here. I think that's all I got for you there. But if you like that, and if anything resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. And share this if you know somebody who would find some nuggets of wisdom out of this. And subscribe there, Queen of Pentacles. Hit that bell button to get notified when I release videos each day. And then last little bit while I shuffle for your surprise card or cards here. Again, if you want to know what's going on with the rest of the celestial bodies, come on over to my other channel, Alchemist 8, where I do weekly videos talking about that. And I also do videos where I talk about different planets and different signs and different houses. Those ones I just kind of release them as I make time for them. So just avail yourself of that when you feel ready to. Thanks, Barrett. But let's go ahead and get into your surprise cards here, because the first one here you have is the Puppeteer card, which is a card of explanations in reverse, and the explanations and apologies. And then you have the Walker card here, which is a card of the unknown and a journey. And this, for some, I'm getting this thing of this journey that maybe is going on. This gives me one that maybe you feel like you can't take it because you have other things, you can't afford to break down or something like that because you have this, you have to look strong, you have to look this. But I think that there's just something there about not needing to apologize for needing to take a minute. And I don't mean just to just people, but just even to yourself. You're not weak if you need to take a beat and just take a minute and just kind of breathe. Maybe you've had, and maybe there was just a lot of anxiety that was building up. Maybe there's been working through a depression. Maybe there's just something here. There's something the unknown, the things that we don't know that's going behind the scenes. I say we being us, that's not you. And we may not necessarily need to go to seeing that challenging times. There's just something about that with others, maybe in that Five of Swords, because the Five of Swords kind of been sticking out for me in this reading, and you don't necessarily need to tell people maybe all the things that are going on behind the scenes. Just thinking about how that puppeteer is maybe maybe moving some things, but you are entitled to just having that own kind of personal quiet storm sort of journey, but maybe give people that olive branch of just like, hey, I am kind of processing something right now, but I'm gonna be fine. I am gonna get through this, but it's just like right now, I need a minute. I need a minute, and I don't need or want to explain what's going on. I just need there to be maybe just this understanding and this compassion. It might take a day, it might take a week. I'm gonna take it, but I'm gonna take as long as I need, and I'm not gonna rush anything. So, I think that there's something here. And I think that there's something there too, maybe. You can take as much time as you need. And I think and that's interesting, but I'm getting something here. It's like either you or maybe another person, they don't necessarily have to stay. Maybe if that's just something that's just kind of coming through there as well. And it's not maybe something that needs to be where we need to force apologies. It could just be a conversation where it's just like, are we going to be able to handle something like that? That's just something else that's just kind of coming to considering you got, just quite a few people kind of in the mix here. But I find that just with Gemini, a simple explanation can go a very long way. And just telling people what happened. They may not necessarily maybe you can't forgive a situation, but maybe we can forget something, whatever, until we can forgive a situation. And maybe not necessarily expecting an apology, if that makes sense, but I think you get what I'm saying. But I think I'm going to leave that there. There's something to meditate on, but until next time, keep raising that vibration, keep eyes on that moon, and I will catch you on the next one Sunday.